Hey, what's up guys? My name is Irina and welcome to my channel where I review everything tech. In my previous videos, I've already talked about the camera specs and features of the OnePlus 6T and the iPhone XS Max, and you can check out the links in the description if you haven't yet seen them. But this video is a little bit different. Guys, you probably already heard of the Google Camera Port, the app that supposedly helps you recreate the most coveted features from the Google Pixel camera on your own smartphone. I got really excited to test this app and see for myself if there's any dramatic difference. Curious to see the results? Then let's get started. So here are the rules. In this comparison, I will test the picture quality between the stock OnePlus 6T camera and the Google Camera Port installed on my 6T. And just to make it even more fun, I decided to throw in the iPhone XS Max for some perspective. My first pictures were taken in the daylight, and usually these kind of shots come out pretty similar, but you can still see some difference here. The shot from the Google camera looks better exposed and slightly more saturated compared to the stock camera on the 6T. And if you look closer, you can see that the Google camera managed to preserve the details of the sign, while neither the XS Max nor the stock 6T camera could do that. Moving on to the next shots taken in the challenging light conditions. We have a lot of shadows here and sun reflections at the same time. Looks like the darkest shot came out from the Google camera and we cannot see a lot of details here in the shadows, while the stock 6T's HDR does a pretty good job showing us all the details and making the shot look well exposed. Speaking of exposure, I think the photo from the XS Max lies right in between here, but if you ask me, I honestly prefer the shot from the stock camera on the 6T. And if you look at the next three shots, you can see a pretty similar story here, where the 6T's HDR makes the shot very bright and the clouds are properly exposed, while the Gcam's shot is slightly darker and the clouds actually seem very close to being overexposed. And when it comes to the photo from the XS Max, it's once again something in the middle in terms of exposure, but the clouds look kind of boring and plain to me. But anyway, all three shots are still beautiful and absolutely usable. Next, let's look at some portrait shots. The first thing I noticed right away was the fact that the Google camera managed to properly highlight my face so that there are no shadows on my face, unlike the stock camera on the 6T, where you can clearly see the shadows around my eyes. But anyway, I think both portraits look pretty good, and this is how they look when compared to the XS Max. The iPhone, as usual, makes the skin tones look very warm, and of course it's up to your preferences as to which portrait you'd like best. And now let's take a look at this color test. All three shots depict the colors differently, and this is quite a recurrent pattern that you will find in the next examples. Now let's look at some selfie shots. What I noticed while testing the Google Camera app was how crisp and detailed shots came out. The HDR works really well in a selfie mode here, the shot is well exposed, and yet all the details are still preserved. You can see how crisp my hair and the lettering on my t-shirt look, and even the light switch in the background is also very sharp. The next selfies were taken in the low light conditions, but still we get the most detailed, sharp and well-exposed shot from the Google Camera app. Now let's look at some portrait selfies. The first thing that strikes me is how dark the shot on the stock camera of the 6T came out here. My eyes and hair look unnaturally dark, while my skin tone is very pale. The XS Max gives us the warmest shot and as usual blurs out my hair. And the Gcam once again makes the shot look very detailed and crisp. And here are also a few daylight examples for you guys. I was waiting for it to get dark so that I could test the night modes on both Gcam and stock camera, and when it got dark, guys, all the magic started. First, I want to show you the whole evolution of making a night shot on the 6T. And here, the first photo was taken in the standard mode, then in the night mode, and finally I used the Google Camera mod. I'd say both night modes do a pretty good job of making the shots look better exposed and yet crisp. However, it needs to be said that the Gcam has managed to properly expose the shot while also making the sky look more dramatic. And now let's see how these two night mode shots compare to the regular photo from the XS Max. We have such a big difference in color temperature here, still we get a well exposed and pretty detailed photo from the XS Max. Now let's look at another example of the night scene. Once again, I want to show you the initial result from the stock camera of the 6T in a standard mode and how it compares to the photos shot in the night modes. The night mode on the stock 6T camera makes the photo look very sharp and well exposed, while the G-Cam produces a more dramatic looking sky. Now let's look how they compare to the XS Max. And of course it will be up to your preference as to which photo you prefer. After making this test, I was actually even more surprised by the stock 6T's camera performance. And oftentimes in this comparison, I prefer the pictures from the stock camera of the OnePlus. However, I have to admit that the G-Cam also does a pretty good job when it comes to night shots, selfies and portraits, so I think it could be beneficial to have it on your phone as an extra camera to play around with. So there it is, guys, you could see all the difference for yourself, and thanks to those of you who specifically requested this video in the comments. I'll put a link to the Google Camera port in the description. Let me know what you guys think about the Google Camera port, and I'm curious to know if you will be using it on your smartphone. Thanks for watching, stay tuned, see you later!